Today, I'm brown enough. I'm sharing a incredibly special and enlivening and light you on fire conversation with the writer, artist, and truth seeker, Fariha Róisín. This episode was originally recorded for my Substack, but it felt too alive, y'all, too necessary not to bring here to you, to this community. Fadi and I get into identity, faith, God, what it takes to set the world ablaze, the courage it takes to speak up for justice. It's intimate, searching, and it's unfinished in the best way because this conversation has just kept opening and opening.
We're at the point of no return, and I think consuming less, considering each other as sort of like we are an organism that need one another. We're this like the mycelium network of humans. We all need one another.
This is part one. It's a shorter conversation than usual. We were running out of time, but it's a glimpse into something deeper, and I promise you, part two is coming soon. Enjoy.
I live in the UK now because I left Los Angeles, which is where you are, last year because I am not a citizen and I was just basically too vocal about Palestine. So my immigration lawyer was like, you gotta go. If you leave, you can't come back. And
Your lawyer told you this?
My immigration lawyer had told me this because essentially, they're doing crazy shit right now in terms of, obviously all over the States, but if you apply for a visa, you have to show, I think they're asking now for 5 years of social media so they can just filter you. And it's no dice, I'm at a point where so much of my work is tethered to my political identity. So it's just, I'm not protected. I can't stop speaking out. So I just have to continue on the path of just being loud, I guess.
I want to say congratulations and sorry that happened. I think it's all of the above. We should get to be loud and still have choice. Do you feel like you're yeah, no, this is great? Or do you feel upset, or is it all of the above?
I feel largely like I live in a town of 80,000 people now. And I feel as if, LA is LA. It's the city of glitz and glam in so many ways. You've got Hollywood and you've got this, I think, vision, this very sort of saturated Americana propaganda of what Hollywood is. And we're all tethered to this system that is just a facade. It's just a mirage of what it thinks it is. And that's the United States, right? This ideology built on liberatory values, of building a nation for all people, and the American dream, and the ways in which even me, I didn't, I grew up in the West because I grew up in Australia. I was born in Canada. I had a Western identity, but I still came to America with a father who had very anti-imperialist politics, came to America believing I can have an American dream. And as I lived in the States on and off for about 16 years, I really realized that dream was so volatile, actually, because it could be taken away from me at any point. I don't really have any real security. Even if I make money, that could be taken away from me. What is money? What is this capital, this obsession with capital, and this belief that we have that capital, money, prestige, fame is going to give us anything rather than emptiness, which is what we see in celebrities anyway. This vacancy of spirit and truth. And I think I feel very grateful that I no longer have to be a part of this facade, and that I don't have to be a part of this machine. The United States is the largest manufacturer of war in the world. I don't want to be shit. So yeah, definitely a relief, but also a deep sadness, a deep sadness because at the end of the day, it's where so many of my best friends are, it's people I love, so many people who live in this like beautiful landmass. It's like and itself as the land, the indigenous land, it's stunning, it truly is. But what is being done to it is just in the name of like democracy, in the name of freedom, in the name of all that is good. What is being done to it is truly like abominable. And I think we should be revolting. And I think that this is my revolt, just to be like, okay, fuck you. I leave.
Good title for a memoir. This is my revolt. Tell me about your writing. I don't know you personally. I'm loving getting to know you through your writing. I kind of stumbled. Maybe it was shared. Maybe it was shared by someone, and then I read it, and then I read another piece. And yeah, your relationship to your artistry, and when does that start? And do you label yourself a writer? Do you label yourself an artist?
I started writing at a very young age. I grew up in a very traumatized household. Writing was always a way of me accessing something outside of my world. And I started writing my novel, Like a Bird, my only novel that's been published, Like a Bird, when I was 12 years old. I was at the time like obsessed with The Hours, the film The Hours, and like Virginia Woolf, and like just sort of, like this like writer life. And I had this dream and I started writing it down. And nobody gave me permission. Like I wasn't a truly like talented like student or anything at that age. I think writing became a way for me to kind of understand myself and my own voice, and understand that I knew, even despite like the darkness of my family life, that I had something to say. I just was really cognizant of that. And I feel like, maybe you feel this way as well. Like sometimes you just feel this sort of like ancestral like touch of like you are bestowed, you have this voice, and it's like bestowed upon you from your ancestors. And like it's just this like very cosmic thing where like I can't tell you how I became so bold enough to believe I had something to say, but like I just did. And I think that really brought me to the US. It really brought me into just like taking myself seriously as a writer. Like I think I see myself primarily as a writer who does many things and has many different modalities, and is a culture worker, and like, an art. I would have considered myself a multidisciplinary artist, but I think the world goes on as we consider new ways of being with each other, as like we're in these like highly fraught times. I think I'm trying to understand also like my position as like a healer, and like, someone who works a lot with trauma. I'm a death worker, I'm a grief worker, so I do a lot of different kinds of things. And I think within that I can hold multiplicity, and I can hold like, sort of the life and death cycle, and I can hold grief in really like tender and profound ways. So I see myself as a writer, but somebody who can wear many different hats, and like contains many different stories and beings. And like I like, especially my Substack, I think it's a place where I like really want to like explore all of these parts of myself, and trying to understand like, how do I think about these things,
I like the term culture worker. I don't think I've heard it before. Yeah, and I like it. I like it a lot. Does that mean we work for the culture, or we work with the culture?
I think both, I think really for like culture worker, it's like understanding that to be a worker, there's so much pride. I think capitalism sort of like creates this sort of division between the classes in a way where like being, a billionaire, or like, having a lot of money is positioned as like good. And I think that there's a humility to like being for the culture and being of the culture. And I think we've lost that sense of art as a tool of imagination, or art as a tool of politic, or art as a tool of like deeper considerations of life. Like, again, I think this is really the fragmentation that is the United States of America. Like because everything is embedded with capitalism, art is lost. Everything can not everything can bring you money. Not everything is about money, like box office sales and like what the heck? Like I'm just trying to write a book or I'm just trying to make a movie. Like it's fucking let me tell my art, like Walt Whitman wasn't trying to get like a $500,000 book deal, like I'm sorry, like what these are art, and the people that we like espouse to like love, James Baldwin, people that are talented and ferocious in their thinking weren't influencers, they were people that were like actually like considering the darkness of life and the profundity of life, and we lose that if we only think about like, and I'm guilty of this too, I understand, like I'm not above this, like we're all in this cycle of like more likes, more this, I gotta make money, like this, I gotta make money, like it's true, I do, like otherwise I can't fucking pay my rent. But at the same time, like where are we going to talk about and acknowledge that we lose a lot in this game of like only thinking about money? So I don't know what I consider myself. I think I consider myself multiple things, but yeah, I'm really sort of like, especially right now, I'm like really interrogating like what does it mean to be an artist? I don't know if you also caught like what Timothy Chalamet recently said about like
Ballet opera.
Ballet opera, and it's the same bullshit, right? Like it's like these like incredible artistic forms are not seen as valuable because they don't make sales. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you serious? Like, this is how we qualify good art? Like, so yeah, it's really top of mind right now.
I love you said I'm investigating. And I would encourage and anyone to, that's what not our job, but that's what we get to do. It's our opportunity as writers, but also as beings, laboratory of self. Like if you want to investigate what it is to be a Buddhist, like go for it. You want to investigate what it is to be, Muslim, go for it. Like do the work, like bring it into the laboratory of your life, into your relationships, into the way you see things, into the way you consume products, identity, money. And that investigation for writers specifically can be your Walt Whitman, your James Baldwin, and how it's so difficult to investigate when we are trying to make products.
Yes.
Because products are not product and investigation are not the same thing. Like Forever 21 and some real fashion is very different. Like they work on a different timeline, and art works on a different timeline than product.
Exactly. And I think that interrogation right now, especially in light of like multiple genocides and like a fucking waging war with Iran, it's like to what end are we just witnesses? Are we just bystanders? Are we just like, oh no, this sucks? Like it can't be. We are facing such an incredibly dangerous beast in like these capitalist forces and the elite class. Like, everything that's being revealed right now, even from the Epstein files, it's just like everything. It's just like things are being unveiled for a reason. And it's really up to us to be like, what am I going to do with all of this information?
And okay, so what do people do? Let's say not everyone can write a book. Okay, so they can't do that. Maybe they can only like share something on social media. What else is left of them, in your opinion? I think a lot of people want to do, but they don't know where to begin.
I think like really organizing, and I've spent much of my life organizing, being an organizer alongside what I do. And I think that we all should be organizers because we are community. We are in community with one another. I think LA and cities like New York, like actually New York is more integrated, but LA, I'm sure you feel this. because of its segregation, it's literally harder to organize. They did that by design, right? They, Ford Motors and they built and they made sure that like the suburbs were so far from the everyday ordinary working class, so it would be harder for them to go back and forth from work, that they're so tired that they're not willing to organize, right? It's like something that I learned even like last year about like how the Oscars were made in order to, I think so, the unions were doing like I guess a lot of incredible work, and the Hollywood bosses, like I think in the 30s and 40s, were realizing that the actors were like actually finding solidarity in one another, and they're like, we can't have this. So they made the Oscars, they made competitions in order to sever union work. And so I think that a lot of us have been separated from this understanding that to be a person, and I'm Muslim, and this is very much a Muslim teaching of like everything is about God and the community. Everything is about God, and therefore everything is about community because it's larger than you and it's beyond you. And your role in this lifetime is to be a steward of something good, to pass on good, to pass on that to your family, to your community, to always show up as your highest self. And I think that submission to something higher than you, which is what really being Muslim means, to surrender to God, is to also accept that there is no higher power. So like capitalism, money, nothing is enough, because like that is also by design. And so what do I really want in life? Maybe it's to sort of reorient myself and understand like what actually matters. So I think spiritual interrogation right now is really key too. Like folks need to learn how to organize. Folks need to learn how to be in community. Folks need to be giving their money to mutual aid. Folks need to learn how to boycott. Boycott change the game. Like boycotts, sanctions, and divestments. The BDS movement. They do so much work for basically just sort of
Sorry, what is the
advocate.
BDS movement?
It's the boycotts, divestments, and sanctions movements. It's a Palestinian-led organization, and they've been around for 20 years, and basically kind of taking from like the logic of what happened in South Africa, using what was happening during apartheid, understanding that boycotts, so to boycott companies, like really simple boycotts, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, McDonald's, there are some pretty big boycotts that we could all across the board agree, like maybe these multinationals don't need to have like such a monopoly on our communities, because obviously they're not being cared for. They're not, are you going to say something, Chris?
Yeah, yes, I agree. Like, what a dream world if we all boycott. And yet we don't. It's so hard. It's so hard to get everyone on the same page. Forget everyone. I think I heard some crazy fact. You only need you need consistency more than numbers. And if you had in revolution, if you had 3% of the people show up every day, and it's like for a certain amount of days, revolutions are wildly successful. It's not a large number, but it's the consistency. And so I hear all of this. I love these movements, love the idea. Don't go to Target, don't this, da 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 da. But it doesn't, it's so hard to get everybody.
It is, but that's also by design. And I think one thing that really is important for American listeners, your US American listeners, is to understand that they've been neutered, that you've been neutralized, that you've been defanged of your oppositional, what is the normal reaction to oppression? that has been completely defined by capitalism. So it's like, just buy another thing. It's okay. You know, the thing about, I don't know if you saw this in the Epstein files, but some guy was saying like, all the people who should be revolting on the streets have all been paid off by Jay-Z. That's a quote. And so it's like, you know, we know that so much of our entertainment is about, you know, just sort of like diluting us. Like the Paris Review was created by the CIA, so was the Iowa Writers Workshop. You know, like these are liberal organizations that have been created in order to depoliticize art. So I think it's really important to also understand that this is the point. The point is so you give up. The point is so you're like, boycotts are hard. Yeah, boycotts are hard. But you said earlier consistency, right? And that's what it is. All of this work is about consistency. It took them 8 years for Martin Luther King to do anything, not that he didn't try, but that like to really inject something in the politics of the public about the Vietnam War. It took them 8 years of the war to actually penetrate any kind of consciousness within the US American public. So these things take time, and these are deeply embedded systems, right? And this is empire. This is the largest empire in the world. It's not gonna collapse in a day. And I think that we have to understand that this is long game. This is long game. And so if you really want to do something, commit to something. You know, like I teach grief, this like 8-week grief studies class, and I've been teaching it since the genocide in Gaza began 2.5 years ago, and I've already had over 300 students. I never thought I would keep doing it, but now I'm like, oh, this is what I do. And week 4 is depression in the grief stage, and the 4th, I also like interweave it with the decolonization stages, which are real and exist. And the 4th stage in the decolonization stage is commitment. You have depression when you can't commit to something, when you have no commitments, when you don't actually have anything that connects you to the earth, to community, to something outside of just you. And I think that we have been so conditioned to believe it's, you know, that phrase of like, you know, people can envision the end of the world before they can envision the end of capitalism. Why do you think that's true?
That's it. I have not heard that. I love that.
So it's like, you know, like we're in these times for a reason. The colonizers' imagination is extremely powerful, but we are only in their imagination. And it's really our responsibility. And this is what I teach this in my work. It's like, it is on us to change, to shift, and to inspire more people to do so. I know I've healed a hell of a lot of shit in my life. You know, I came from a really dark place. From a fucked up family. You know, I'm a CSA survivor, an incest survivor, doing work that I never thought I would do. Because I believe in revolution, and that starts with myself. And I think we forget that like revolution, evolution, it begins with you. You can't be liberated. You can't liberate others, or you can't liberate a world if you yourself are not liberated. And I think that people really forget that. They skip that, and they lose sense of purpose and grounding. But actually, like, we have a lot of power. People power is very, very powerful, and a lot has been done through people power. And as you said earlier, just we don't need that many numbers. And so it's like, I think educating the masses, which is what I see myself doing, and also not losing to despair. Like, this is just their goddamn really ridiculously boring imagination that just happens to be extremely violent. But, you know, like, capitalism's not that old. These empires are not that old. You know, a lot can happen in 500 years. And so it's, yeah, the consistency, the commitment, and the understanding that this is I believe this is the fight of our lives. I believe we're facing the fight of our lives. So like, If that's true, we all have to get a lot smarter and a lot more articulate about what it is that we're facing, you know?
I think so many beautiful and spot on things, but to return to consistency and time, the internet has warped our understanding of time, and social media has warped. Like, I always say, if self-help books worked, we wouldn't be in this place. But reading isn't enough, because they expect to like read the book and be done. Like, they're like, I did it. I threw some shit out, I Marie Kondoed, and like my life is better. But then the shit happens again because of consistency and time. And what you said, I think anyone who you would probably appreciate as an artist or as a person or as a spiritual being was doing that stuff every day. They were every day. And we need to, part of this reimagining, because I use an aggressive term called the genocide of the imagination. I believe when you flood the field with content, which is something actually the far right has known about for 50 years. If you flood chaos, you never know where to strike. You flood the field with chaos, and if you flood the field with content, which I called like inflammation of the mind, like you flood it with information, you can't have your own imaginings, your own thoughts, your own liberation. And so first, I think there is that I have to consume less. I need everything less. In order to have this deeper relationship with time. And I love, I don't know if maybe this is your definition, it's what you said, and so I want to repeat it, but to be Muslim is to surrender to God. And I would say that's to be many spiritual practices. To be blank is to surrender to God. And in that surrendering, it's not like I surrendered today, I don't have to do it again tomorrow. That time, this relationship to time.
And commitment, commitment, spirituality, spiritual edification is all about commitment. We've lost our relationship to God. We've replaced it with capital. And now we believe that, that becoming a billionaire is going to save us, or like that some billionaire is going to save us. And actually we realize that greed begets greed, and more people are becoming extremely selfish and disconnected, and that is also by design. And like indigeneity, if we really want to think about decolonial practice or praxis, indigeneity, it's all about community, it's all about commitment to community, it's all about pooling your resources and giving more, not just like wanting to buy yourself a brownstone or just like the new car or like whatever you need. As you said, consume less. Like, I've been in the degrowth movement for a long time, and the degrowth movement, for folks that don't know, is an international movement to basically exactly what you said, Chris, really teach folks that upward mobility is not possible for us as a species, as a global world anymore. We've consumed too much. We have excess now, and actually the earth is saying no more. I actually can't produce anymore. So this idea of utopia, people often ask me, they're like, well, that's not possible. But it's like, do you know how many $1 billion the United States spends on military?
Literally $1 billion a day right now.
Exactly. I mean, the budgets that could be cut to give people not even the bare fucking minimum. You look at countries like Sweden, you look at countries like the Netherlands, so many places in Europe. These countries are extremely flawed in other ways. I don't uphold them as perfect societies, but definitely in terms of how they're looking after their people is completely juxtaposed against an empire who can't even provide basic healthcare and wants to bomb other countries because they believe that they're a threat to you know, the global world order. I mean, like, the projection is hilarious, but like, it just really is, we're at this point of like, we're at the point of no return. And I think consuming less, considering each other as sort of like, we are an organism that need one another, you know, we're this like the mycelium network of humans. We all need one another. We are all so brutalized by genocides, you know, like no matter where we come from, our ancestors were probably genocided. My ancestors, my parents survived a genocide in 1971 in Bangladesh. 3 million people were murdered by the Pakistani army in the space of a year. 1971, my parents were 15 and 16, you know, and their parents survived partition. And in 1943, there was the Bengal famine. I'm from the Bengal. I'm Bengali, and there was a famine, and reportedly 3 to 10 million people were starved by the British because they were sending food to the troops in World War II. So the levels of dehumanization that a lot of our ancestors have had to experience is just a reminder that like we have overcome so much, and it's our responsibility now to fight for this earth. You know, we have the resources to fight, to ask for more, to demand for more, and to resist, to reject, to you know, like, to you know, whatever the cost. And I believe that we are facing great costs. I know, but I think people need to make those sacrifices. You know, bless Aaron Bushnell. Not everybody can burn themselves alive and say free Palestine, but I think that, you know, we can't forget folks that are literally giving their lives so we fucking wake up. And it is our responsibility to our comrades to actually do something about it, you know? So I think that there's a lot of humility to this work. And I think because I try and move with God, I remind myself, like, a lot of my work has become known, and I've become known in these last 15 years. You know, I have a public life now, in terms of like people know me and whatever. And I hate it. I really, really don't like it, because to me, that's not why I do this. I do this because I believe in revolution. I believe in liberation. That is my whole being, you know, and I believe in God, and I believe that like this is the work of our time, of our lives. It's to reconnect with earth, which in basically every spiritual ontology means connecting with God. And so like, if we want to protect this earth, if we really want to do something about, you know, like our children, like if we want children, if we want them to live in a livable planet, like we got to act in ways that we've never acted before.
I know we're supposed to consume less, but I would like to consume more time with you. We have to end it. We've been trying to connect, and we have just connected. So I would love a part 2. Is there any like last takeaway, or last question, or last anything before we wrap it up?
Have a backbone. This time is asked to have a backbone. So to everyone listening, have a backbone. Fight harder for what you believe in. Don't give in to the fear mongering. We all need each other, and we can live in a world where we all are not trying to kill one another. That has happened before. You know, there's been thousands of years of human civilization where we haven't accumulated to this, and we have to believe that this earth is worth protecting. So please protect her.
Amen. Have a backbone. Thank you.
That's our time today, y'all. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.